Thanks everyone for joining us again. Okay, so this is going to be the hands-on session, how we are going to deploy the test automation framework uh, to the OpenShift platform. Okay, so what we have seen in the previous two sessions is all the theory. First session was more about what is Selenium, what is functional test automation, how Selenium helps to automate your web application testing, and then some of the basic locators, commands, different types of frameworks Selenium has. Then in the second session, we kind of talked about what is the framework, UIF, user interface automation framework, what we are going to use for deployment to OpenShift. Okay, and then technically we also saw what are the different components used to develop that framework. Okay, and then what are the different configurations, what are the different YAML files, what we are going to use to deploy to OpenShift, and different sequence also for the YAML files, what we will be leveraging. Okay, and before we kind of jump in there, so with the actual hands-on, so we would probably just give a little bit background about the different Docker images also what we have created. Okay, and then we will show you how it is going to be used to deploy to OpenShift. Okay, so with me I have Bharat, who is going to do the actual deployment and show you the actual hands-on practically as a part of part one of this session. And then in part two, I'm going to use the same deployed application, record a sample script, convert it into the automation using the same script and data files, and then use those files to execute the automation test case, the functional automation test case. So we can see means within next few minutes or maybe within an hour, we will be able to deploy the functional test automation framework using Selenium to OpenShift. And also we will be able to use that framework to execute our first test case. Okay, so that's going to be the agenda for this particular.
Yeah, hello all. In the last session, we have seen the uh, configurations file and the order in which you have to deploy in the OpenShift. So I'll show you a configuration file which we are using now, Nginx deployment. Last I have showed you a example here. So this is the actual deployment file we are using for Nginx, and you can see there are a lot of attributes. These are created, these YAML files are created using a tool called Compass. So that will automatically add these fields. So no need to worry about that. I just wanted to show you the image which we are using. So for Nginx, we have created the Docker images locally. So this is the Docker Compose file. So here we will be having like, yeah. So here you can see this is how we create the images. These images which you will use in your YAML file, build dot. So it will take the Docker file from our host system and it will build the images with the base image Bitnami Nginx. So this will be the base image and we extend it and we do our configurations and we deploy it. So once you build, you can push it to Docker Hub. So once you push it to the Docker Hub, you can access it using the image tag. So this is a Docker Compose file. So you can use a tool called Compass. So using that, you convert this YAML file into this YML, Docker Compose. You should see the format. This is YML file. So you can convert this into YAML files. You can use Compass convert in the directory where your Docker Compose file resides. So it will create your configuration files. So that image which is pushed to the Docker Hub that we are referencing here, and port number is 7000. So now let us go for the deployment. So first go to the Open Labs and launch the lab. It will take you to this page. From here, go to exercise 1, go to this launch the URL. Now here we are deploying using web. So we are not using the command prompt. We are using the GUI to deploy the web console. So you click on OpenShift Web Console. You can do it by command prompt as well. Your shell, your cloud shell. Yeah, as I have explained, the first one will be env config files. So yeah, right now you are in administrator mode. You go to the workloads. Here you can see config maps. So this is where your these env variables, those credentials, you can store it here. You can go to this import YAML. So these are the deployments file we have. So you go to this and you copy, you drag and drop it. So here you can see these credentials. See, these are env file. This is the env file, and these are the credentials used. Your salary, URL, your database name. You can see these projects. This database you have to create in CouchDB. So all those data are in this. You create it. Yeah, so yeah, that updated YAML file you will receive. So we have created the config maps. If you go to the config maps, you can see that env. So you open the YAML file, you can see all those fields here. What we have uploaded, it's present here. Now go to the deployments. No, go to the persistent volume. We need a persistent volume for our Postgres and for our CouchDB. So for that we need to claim it. Go to the persistent volume claims. You can do this operation from anywhere. You can click on this plus icon and it will import. Here you can see the kind. Last time in the slide we have seen that kind, only two kinds. One was deployment and one was service. So here this kind says it is persistent volume claim. So it knows, the OpenShift knows what kind of deployment, what kind of operation you are doing. So you need not to worry about that. You can do it from anywhere on this UI. You go here and you create the persistent volume claim. So it will take some time. You can see it's in the pending status. So yeah, after some time it will create the persistent volume. Now you do the same operation. Here you see second one is DB data. Third one is DB data. You deploy the DB data file, DB data persistent volume claim. You click on create. Now it will create two persistent volumes. One is DB data and one is PG data. This is for the Postgres database, and this is for the CouchDB. So all the data will be stored in these volumes. Now, uh, now you cannot create this Postgres and CouchDB services or pods because it has dependency on this volume. So it will not create, it will fail. So meanwhile, let's create other other services which is not dependable, which is independent of these persistent volumes. So let's create our, which is the next one, hub deployment. Okay, you click on plus, you import the hub deployment. So this is for the Selenium grid. This is the deployment file. Now deploy the service file. So this will create a network for this. Let's deploy Chrome now. So these are the nodes. Hub is the Selenium grid, and this is the node we are deploying. So we have deployed the deployment file. Now let us deploy the service file. So all this you can see here. If you go to the deployments, you can see here what we have deployed. We have deployed Hub. We have deployed Chrome. If you go to the pods, you can see, yeah, our our Hub. It has started. It is running. And our Chrome, that container is creating. If you go to the logs here, you can. If you go to the events here, you can see the process. It is the process happening in the background. So it's pulling the image. So this is pulled from the Docker Hub or the repository where this is available. This image is available. So it has pulled the image and it will create the container. So once you have the container, you can go to the terminal, do any operations. So until then, yeah, it has started. Yeah, you can see the status is running. So we are inside it and you can do any operations in here. If you go to the terminal and you can check the logs here. So this is for the pods. So now we have deployed Chrome. Now let's deploy the Firefox node. So this deployment, this will pull the Firefox image and it will create the service for us. Okay, Firefox, it is creating the container. Let's check for the persistent volume. It's still in the pending status. Once it has turned into bound, we can deploy the Postgre and CouchDB. So we have deployed till here. Now Postgres and CouchDB. Yeah, we have to deploy these two. These two are dependent on this PG data. And Nginx and web, these are dependent on PostgreSQL database, and this web is dependent on PostgreSQL and CouchDB. And this Nginx is dependent on this web. So they are interlinked. So one failing to start or creating will have an impact on another. So let's wait for the persistent volume to bound. It's taking some time. Yeah, okay. 1 dB, one volume uh, claim has bounded. Okay, the second one also got bounded. PG data and DB data. You can see the persistent volume here. You can see PVC. This is the claim for DB data and this is the PG data. This is the persistent volume created and the capacity. So now we can deploy the PostgreDB service. So you go to the Postgre deployment, deploy it. So this will get the Postgres image from the Docker Hub, create it, deploy the service file also. Let's check the pods. It is creating the Postgres. It will take some time. It will pull the image and it will create the container. Uh, so let's proceed with the deployment for CouchDB. So this is the file couch server deployment YAML and couch server service.yaml. So you deploy it. Now service file. Okay, so we are almost done with the deployment. So we are done with the DB. Now we need to only deploy our Django service, Nginx, and the message broker. Okay, this is taking some time. Let it create. The meantime, let's deploy the RabbitMQ. It is independent of other services, RabbitMQ. It has no dependency on this database or anything. So we can deploy this RabbitMQ at any time. You need not to deploy it at 14th step. You can deploy it at the first step also. Only this one because it is independent of any other services. So let me deploy it. Okay, our PostgreDB is up. You can see the status is running. CouchDB it is still creating. Yeah, RabbitMQ is up. Okay, so this RabbitMQ, this is the message broker. So let me show you how it looks, like what it is. So for accessing this service, you need to add a route for it. So you are exposing it to the outside world. Go here, you give a name. So this is RabbitMQ. So I give the name RabbitMQ and select the service. You have deployed the service files. So that's what I said. It will give the network. It will do the connection between the pods. So here you will get the service. If you haven't deployed the service file, service configuration file, you won't get the service here. So you have to do that. You can select UF Rabbit. This is the service and target port. So from where this target port is coming. So let's check our service file. Yeah, you can see here. So this port 15672, this will be exposed to the outside world. 15672, this is the container port. Same thing for 5672. This is exposed to the outside world, the host. This is the container port. So this container port, it is available in the deployment file. You can see here in your templates. Your template, you go to the specification, and in the specification you can see ports. The container port is, oh sorry, this is web deployment, I'm sorry. Yeah, so you go to the template, you go to the specifications, and down here on the ports you can see the container ports. Here we are using two ports. This 1567, this is the GUI port. For the RabbitMQ, you can access the UI from this port. And this 5672, this port number is used to connect with the Celery. This is for internal purpose. Celery will connect to this port and you can view the UI on this port. So that is how we have linked it, the service file and the deployment file. You go to the select target port. You need not to create a route for 5672. This is an internal connection and it will work. But for accessing outside of the container, you need to access it on your browser. So for that, you need to have this 15672 port. So you secure it, go to the TLS termination, select edge, and insecure traffic. Yeah, for the time being, we can allow it, all the insecure traffics, and you create. So this will create the route. So this is the location. So you go to you can see here, this one. This is the location. You launch it. Yeah, this is the UI for RabbitMQ. And password, we have set the password as guest. So this is the default password. You can log in. This is how it looks. You can go to the queues. Here, when our salary service starts, it will right now it says no queue. So when our salary service starts, it will add here. A queue will be added here, our salary queue. All the messages, all the Selenium execution actions that salary will send to this, and it will be held here. Okay, everything will be held here, and whenever salary retrieves it, whenever salary subscribes it, that will be decremented. Okay, so that will be given to salary, and it will decrement from the message queue. Okay. Now let's get back to the deployment and check the status for our pods. Okay, everything is up. Our couch server, CouchDB is running. Now here as I have mentioned, you need to create a projects database in your CouchDB. So for that, you need to access CouchDB, right? So you need to add a route for that. You cannot access directly, right? It is not exposed to the outside. So you go here and give a name. Let me give it CouchDB. Select the service. Our service name was Couch Server. We have given the name Couch Server, if you remember. You select it and the port 5984. This is similar to what I have explained, the target port and the uh, port, the container port and the host port. So you select it, secure the route, edge, and for the time being, I'm keeping it allow in secure traffics. Click on create. I have got the URL here. So go to this URL. Okay, so to launch the DB, you need to give this URL /_ utils. Yeah, I will add it in the slides. So this is the URL. You need to append /_ utils. Yeah, for the username, what have we given for the username? Uh, our credentials. Let's check the env file. So DB URL. You can see this is the username uifadmin and password is uifadmin123. So put it here uifadmin, username uifadmin123 to log in. Now there are no databases here. You click on create database. The database name projects. It is case sensitive, so be careful with that. Projects. Click on create. Yeah, so that database is created now. Now we can proceed with the other deployments. Uh, we are remaining with web deployment and Nginx deployment. So let's deploy that also. Click on this import YAML, bring in the deployment web deployment file. Deploy this service. Okay, let's wait for it. Yeah, let me deploy the Nginx as well. Deploy the Nginx. You scroll down, you see the images here. So it will pull this image and it will create the uh, containers. So deployment is done. Let's import the service file. So we are done with the deployments. So you go to the pods and you can see it's creating, Nginx is creating and KWebKit is showing create container configure. All right. Uh, okay, it was missing a key DB URL1 that was removed from the configuration file. So let me it. So this DB URL1 is not used actually in the project, but when we removed it, it was not removed from the other deployment files. So let me add it here also. Okay, it's already present. Let me save it, reload it. Let's check the port status now. Yeah, web is running. So you can see the logs. Yeah, so these are the migrations, what you see here. So our Django application, it is migrating all the schema, our user model and projects, test cases, all those schema are applied to the Postgres database. So that's what you see here, the migrations. It's nothing but applying the schema to the database. And this one, it has started the Celery. You can see here, Celery service, it is started and it is connected to the RabbitMQ. You can see AMQ, this is the protocol username, guest and the password. This is the service UF Rabbit, and as I said, it is connected to the internal port 5672. Now let's check our Nginx. Nginx is also running. Now we need to access this Nginx outside because this is what facing the client or the user. So Nginx is serving the files, static files or front-end files. So we need to add a route for it. So create a route. So here I'm giving, since this is facing the client, I'm giving it the name UIF. So select the service, select Nginx port. So it is mapped to 7500. Secure the route. So I'm keeping it edge and I will keep it redirect. So all the HTTP requests will be converted into HTTPS. I mean, it will be redirected to HTTPS. Okay, it is. Yeah, I have created the route. Let me go to the location. Okay, it has. And yeah, so our application is up and running now. And you need to make one more change. This location, you need to copy and you go to the env file. Go to the config maps, select the env file, go to the YAML. This is the only change you need to make. Other changes, adding this DB URL one, and before that also I had made a change. So that you need not to make, because that we will update that changes and give you the new YAML file. So here for the server, you need to keep the URL you copied, the endpoint for the Nginx service. Make sure you are not appending a slash at the end. You shouldn't append a slash. So you just keep the URL for server. T is server. We keep this value, save it, reload. Okay. So just delete this pod to make sure that that change is reflected. So if you make any changes to the deployment, yeah, it will automatically cascade down to the pods. But env config you made a change. So let me just recreate it. Uh, okay. Uh, yeah, we are done with the deployment and we have our application up and running. Now Praveen will explain the flow. So what we are doing with this application and how this execution is happening. Praveen is going to explain you that. So thank you all. And yeah, Praveen, you can take over from here.
Okay, thanks Bharat for explaining in detail how do we do the hands-on and how do we deploy the application. Okay, so now what we have seen is basically how we are able to deploy the functional test automation framework, UIF framework to OpenShift. And Bharat has already shown all the deployments and the application is up and running. So it means our automation framework is now ready to use. So what we are going to try to do now as a part of this hands-on exercise is like we are going to create automation for one of the sample flow, test flow, and then execute that with the help of automation framework. Okay, what we just have deployed. Okay, so that's going to be the second part of this session. Okay, so you can find all the details about this exercise in the GitHub also, okay, which is already shared. So all the deployment configuration files, what Bharat was using, they are also here in this deployment files.zip. Okay, so you can download and make use of those for your hands-on. The instruction document is also here. So all the instruction documents, what Bharat was sharing about what is the order and sequence and some high level information. So that PDF also is here. You can make use of it. And then the prerequisite actually to use the lab and everything, I'm sure in the day one session, it's already explained, but you need to have the IBM Cloud account, okay? And then the above down YAML files basically, and the deployment instructions. You need to download these things, okay? And then this is just about some information what we have created in GitHub, just to understand. And as a part of our workshop agenda, hands-on, we are done with this part one, where we have deployed the Docker image of the framework to OpenShift instance, okay, using the YAML files. So now in part two, basically, we are going to create the automation on one of the demo website, this Orange HRM demo website, okay? And we have picked up some sample flow. So what you see here, it's just simple, and I'll show the flow also in a bit. We are logging into the application, going to certain options, adding a new candidate, okay, and then clicking on a save, and then logging out from the application, okay. Uh, so this is the flow, and then uh, we will also provide you the generated script and data file. We'll just push those files here in the same location, okay. You can see those here also at the time of workshop, and you can download those files and import those and then execute. So the success criteria from your side to be successfully done the execution of this workshop is you need to have the report basically generated, the success report for the Word document, and share that basically. So that will be kind of a evidence that you have successfully completed the exercise, the deployment of your application to your lab, OpenShift lab, what you are having during workshop, and also using that application or framework to run the first test case, functional test automation test case. Okay. So I will share that actually once we go through the flow. So before we do that, so as a part of uh, the flow, basically you see here, we are kind of using the RoboCoder plugin. So you can, it's a simple Chrome plugin. So if you go to the Chrome Web Store and search with RoboCoder, you will get that plugin, and you just have to add that extension to the Chrome. So now it's already added for me. So I don't get add button. So I have remove button. But once you add that extension to Chrome, it will come here. So you can just pin it also from extension bar. And then once you pin it, you will be able to see it here. Okay, so this is the plugin what we are going to use to record the flow. So as I said during the theory also, this framework works on the record and playback mechanism. So first, what we do is like we record the script, and then with the help of some utility or the small utility, we convert that script, the recorded file, into the script and data Excel sheet, and then we use those Excel sheet in the framework basically to execute the test case. Okay, so that is the flow. So let me go to this website. So this is the website. So what we are going to do here is basically, so first thing, let me start the recording now. Okay, so to start the recording, we simply just click on record button. Okay, let me open in the new window. I'm just opening the website, and then I'm going to the logging in to the website. So the username is admin, password is admin123. It's mentioned here on the website also. Then I click on login button. Once I click on login, we are going to this recruitment tab. Then we are clicking on add a candidate. And here we are just adding a new person or candidate basically. So I am adding myself actually and some email ID. I am just adding contact number, and then I am clicking on save. So successfully save, the candidate is added, and now I'm simply just logging off from the application. And then I'm closing the browser. So this is the flow. I'm stopping the recording. So now you see here. So robocoder, what it does is like it generates the script basically in the robot format test case. So robot framework is also one of the open source framework. So it uses kind of this format. So the robocoder basically uses or creates your test case in this format using a certain robot keyword like opening browser, inputting text, and clicking element, all of that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this file. Okay, so I save the file, and then it will look like this text file basically. So this is just a robot format test case what we have just created. So this is the flow for our workshop, and this is all mentioned in the Git also, everything. Okay. So once we kind of create here, let me open, yeah. So now you have to stop here, means you don't have to worry about generating the script and everything. So we'll provide you the generated files, but I will just show you how we generate the script. So we have a small utility basically, which is helping to generate that script or file. So for example, this downloaded test underscore script, I'm just putting in my utility. So let me paste that here. And then I'm just running this utility to generate the script and data file. Okay, so I'm simply running that batch file basically. So what it will do, this utility is basically generating automatically my script and data file, which is needed to execute that test case through automation. So there is no manual intervention or anything basically. So automatically, I'm just able to kind of generate my test case. Okay, so you see the test case is getting generated here step by step automatically. Okay, so once it's generated, you see the message like this, test generation completed successfully. So I'm okay, clicking OK. And here in the test data file, you see the script and data file is generated. Okay, script underscore orange and test data underscore orange, it just generated now. Okay, so I'm going to exit this utility and I will show you the test case generated. So once the test case is generated, so remember in the theory session, I mentioned about there are three things basically what framework needs to run. First is like a step-by-step script file, so or the test case. So this is step-by-step step test case, expected result and actual action and other thing. And then second is the repository of objects. So using Selenium, these are the locators my Selenium is going to use to locate that particular element in my flow. And then third thing is about the test data file. Okay, so like in my test case, whatever the data I have used, so I have used username, password. Password is just coming with asterisk, and then so we will have to replace that with actual password though when we use it for execution. And then I passed on my user first name, last name, email ID, and contact number basically. So all of that gets generated automatically in the data file. So these files are basically generated automatically. Okay, so as a part of this exercise, we are going to provide you these two files also. So script underscore orange HRM demo. So this is one file. Okay, so you can directly use that file. So it has your step-by-step test case, object locators here, and then data file. Okay, so data file also has the details basically what we just talked: username, password, first name, last name, your email ID, and phone number. So one thing for when you execute, okay, uh, to maybe one thing you can do is like to kind of just share you have done the execution. You just change the candidate first name and last name with your names, right, instead of my name, so that and maybe you can give some email address also, so that when you do the execution, your details will be there in the screenshot, right? So that will kind of say like you have done the execution from your side also. So you can just change it with your first name, last name, email address, even, and then just use that file. So let's come back to the application. So this is the same application uh, what Bharat has deployed. Okay, so this is the same URL Bharat has shared with me. So I'm going to access the application now. So this is just a framework. So this is the first or the home page. So once we kind of come to this home page, for a new user, what we need to do uh, is like first, as a new user, we need to register ourselves. Okay, if I'm already registered, then I can simply just log in with username and password. Okay. Okay, so as I'm coming here first time, so I need to register myself as as an user for this application. So I'm just kind of saying username, password probably. Okay, uh, email address also I'm just using something, and then password also I'm giving something. So I'm just registering as a new user. So you see here I'm registered. I got the message here. So once I'm registered, I can use those details to log in. Okay, so I logged into the application now. So this is how the framework or application looks like. Okay, so it has dashboard where we can see number of test cases executed, and also right now you can see everything 0, 0, right? Because it's a brand new application Bharat just deployed and we are accessing it first time. So when you do it in your lab session, you will also see the same thing. Okay, and then projects is something in the theory session also we explain, right? So first you create the project, then you create the test cases, you add those test cases to the project, and then you execute the test cases. Okay, so let's do that. Let's create the first project. Okay, so I'm just giving the project name here as a Prevail, just giving some uh, description here. Okay, and then submitting the request. So project created successfully. So I see the project is available now, Prevail. Okay, so I see it's created by me at this time and all. Okay, and I'm the user. If I want to add other people as a user also, I can add other also as a user for this project, so that others are also able to use the test cases within the project or able to execute those. Okay, and I can do all those edits from here. Okay, adding new users and everything. So once the project is created, second thing is to create a new test case. So again, first test case I'm adding here. So I'm adding Orange HRM demo. Okay, I'm adding it as a web test case. Ignore the second option right now. But since we are using Selenium here, we are using web browser. And then project name, I'm just adding as a Prevail. So just the project what we just created, right? So this is where the test case to project mapping we are doing. And then script and data file. So these two important files, right? So we'll be providing these files in the same GitHub. So you can download from there, modify the data file with your username and password. Sorry, with your first name and last name, and then use it. But here I'm just using the same file basically here. Okay. So let me go to the, okay. So I'm selecting script underscore orange HRM demo. So this is the script Excel. Script Excel always start with script underscore, and then data Excel always start with test data underscore. Okay. Then you can have any other custom name after that. But it should always start with script underscore, and then data file should always start with test data underscore. Once you add that, you just click on submit. So it says upload in progress successful. So now you see the test case is also generated and created. Okay. So now we are ready to execute it. Okay. So once I execute, basically, I select the project and which browser I want to execute. So you remember uh, when Bharat did the deployment, he deployed both Chrome as well as Firefox image, right? The Docker image. So we have an option to select on or run it on either of the browser. So I'm going to run it on Chrome browser. Okay. So as soon as I hit execute, it will start executing. So one thing here, uh, we are using Selenium grid here, not the local driver, right? So we won't be able to see the execution, how it's happening, because it's running on some remote Linux server. Okay. Well, we will be able to see it once we integrate this framework with some tools like Selenium and all. So through the VNC viewer, we can see the actual execution which is happening. But now what we will be able to see is like execution is in progress, and once it's done, we'll see execution completed. But once it's completed, we will be able to see the detailed report along with the screenshots also, whether it passed or failed. Okay, so let's execute. So as soon as I hit execute, it says execution request received. And if I go to the status tab now, you see view progress. So it says execution is started now. Okay. So it's running the execution. So it's still kind of running. So started. So as soon as you see the success, it means your execution is done. So let's give maybe a 15-20 seconds for the flow to execute. So we had almost like a 10 different steps in the test case, right? So it will take some time to execute. If we have, once we integrate this with something like a Selenium, or if we use VNC viewer to log in and see the connect to that Linux machine, we will be able to see the actual execution also, how it's happening on that machine. But right now for this workshop or lab exercise, we are not having that integration done. So we will be able to see the post execution report directly. Okay, so it's still running. Let's wait. Okay, so once execution is in progress, it will take few seconds or some time to run the execution. And once it's complete, you can see the success message here like this. So the execution is progress completed basically, right? So to see or verify what it executed and all, we need to see the report. So we just go to the report section of the tool, then we select the project what we have created, and then we see like one test case is successfully passed out of one total. So we created one test case, we executed it successfully. If you click on the test case, you see the past test cases, and then you see the actual like execution and other details also. You can click on screenshots and see all the screenshots basically, right? So as per our script sheet, we decided to capture the screenshot for each screen. So we can see the whole screenshot, all screenshots basically are captured here. One more way we can see the reports is like if you go to the test cases section, and this is something actually we would be kind of asking you all participants who has kind of participated in this hands-on activity to share this report, because that will be kind of uh, uh, your we can say like evidence that you have successfully deployed the app and then use the app to run your execution also. Okay, so you just select the test case name. Here you have two reporting options like Word report and Excel report. So we will see the Word report first. You click on download. So the report will get downloaded. So let's download that and then let's open it. Okay, so as you see here, it was executed by me and status is pass, and then I have stepwise description, expected result, and a screenshot for that step. Okay, so all that is basically captured here. So you see everything is passed, so we are basically good here. Okay, so this is what basically we would be kind of requesting you guys to send. And as you see here, remember I mentioned you to change your full name with your first name and last name. So in your report, we should be able to see your details here, first name, last name, and then the email address, right? So So that is Word report. You can see Excel report also. So that will be like a simple Excel sheet format looking at step by step uh, information. So we are capturing screenshot for each step. And then here we see basically everything is passed, right? So that's the status also we see here as a pass. So if we see any failure, then we will see the failure message and then the uh, error log also here. Okay? And the failure screenshot will be captured, of course. So these are the two reports what we will get generated. And as a part of this completion of this exercise, we will be kind of requesting you to share these reports with us. Okay, to just to kind of confirm you have successfully completed the lab exercise. Okay, so this is what we wanted to show basically as a part of a hands-on lab exercise, what we will be seeing. So what we did, we created a new project, okay, and then we added a new test case, and then we executed that, and then we saw the report basically for that execution, okay, how it is generated. Again, as I said earlier, we are not able to see the live execution now because the integration part with some of the tools like Selenium or VNC viewer is not yet done, but once we do that, we will be able to see even the live execution. But right now, what we see is like the actual execution status and then the report with screenshot, which is generated. On the dashboard, we will be able to see the overall metrics or data, like how many projects, how many test cases, in a pie chart form, how many fail pass. So right now, for this app, we just have one test case or first test case executed. So you see that actually as here basically. But overall means this is just a simple functional test automation framework, which basically we can use to maintain and execute our test cases. And same thing we'll be doing as a part of lab exercise in this workshop. Okay, so thank you for joining in for this hands-on session. And if there are any issues or concerns, we'll be definitely able to help and troubleshoot those for you. Okay, so thanks for listening in and best of luck for your lab exercise. Thank you.